Here at the Chief Audio Man, we help folks find high-value hi-fi home theater and headphone equipment. And today we're talking about whether a $1,000 travel DAC amp is better than a $10 DAC amp, or a $180 DAC amp, or a $130 DAC amp. The answer may surprise you. Sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the Ifi Diablo travel DAC amp versus the Ear Studio M100 Mark II versus the IDSD S9 Pro versus an Apple Lightning to 3.5 millimeter adapter for $10. So this video is mostly about the Ifi IDSD Diablo. It's a travel DAC amp. It's $1,000. I had a friend send this to me and I listened to it and it was very good. I started doing my evaluation, but I thought, you know what? This is really a question about whether you should spend $1,000 on a travel DAC amp, or you should spend $150 or $80 or $10. And I just wanted to know if there was a huge step up in sound quality from $1,000 to $150 to $10. The Diablo is an oblong-shaped, cigar-looking, fire engine red painted DAC amp. On the front, it's pretty simple. There is a volume knob, also the power knob. You turn it on and it gives you a little light. There is a turbo, a normal, and an eco mode, which that really means low, medium, and high gain. Kind of like Starbucks. Grande, tall, venti. It's just another way of saying small, medium, large, low, medium, high. Thank you, Ifi, for being special and renaming low, medium, and high to eco, normal, and turbo. Next to that, there is a balanced 4.4 pentagon connector for all your balanced headphone needs, and a 6.35 millimeter headphone jack for all your single-ended headphone needs, unless you forget the 6.35 millimeter adapter while you're on the road. No 3.5. We'll come back to that later. On the back, left to right, there is a mini SPDIF optical connection. Mini, which means all of the cables that you're going to go buy at your local Best Buy or Walmart aren't going to fit. But if you remember the adapter, then you can get away with it. Next to that, there's a balanced output, 4.4 pentagon. Next to that, USB-C power. Pretty cool. USB-C, just plug it in and powers it up. Next to that, another head-scratching moment, a USB input, but what it really is a male USB connection. So somehow you have to get a USB male connector, either USB-A or USB-C, and then it has to terminate into a female USB connector. And those probably can be found, but not as easily. So if you forget it and you don't have it, you're basically going to need to get a USB extension. So it'll need to be USB-A female on one side, USB-A male on the other side, or USB-A female and then USB-C, whatever it is. But you're not going to find those. You're going to maybe find a USB-A female to a USB-A male. Maybe. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that Ifi claims to be just awesome on this thing. DAC section has ultra low noise regulation with additional passive filtering, reducing high order harmonics. Okay, you can go to their website and read all about how they describe their product. And it says the USB input stage is better, reduces jitter and all that stuff. You can also get, hold on, let me show it to you. You can also get one of these. It's the Ifi Purify module, only $150. What you do is you plug in, again, another very common USB connection, and then you plug this into the actual Diablo. Reduces the noise and jitter even more, only $150. You could buy this, the IDSD S9 Pro, and then not need any of this other stuff, or you could buy this and still need a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay, it's out there, available. I'll link it in the description. Let's talk about the finish. Let's talk about how it looks. Looks pretty good from here, a few feet. But upon closer investigation, one will see that the paint is already chipping off. Now, Ifi didn't send this to me, a friend sent it to me, so obviously they have been using it. But at $1,000, with the finish already chipping off, I think that's unacceptable. I do. At $1,000, you could have, I don't know, done something with aluminum, anodized something, I don't know, but not have red paint chipping off. Frankly, this to me looks pretty chintzy when it comes to the build. Now, it is heavy. It's got some nice weight to it, but I don't know why they went with a painted enclosure style. You would have think they would have stepped up on how this thing looks. I mean, they have another travel DAC amp, and it looks to be built somewhat similarly. $1,000 if I'm getting something like this. I don't want it to look like a tall, skinny flask that's painted poorly. I want something better. And then even the font down here, I don't know. I'll tell you, I'll put it to you this way. This doesn't scream high quality to me when I pick it up. This screams, this is the type of case you would get if you bought 4 cigars for 30 bucks. It's a cigar case that's not even painted very well. So let's talk connections. Mini optical. No, if people lose that cable, they're not gonna be able to find another one. And if they lose the adapter, they're not gonna be able to find another one. Full-size optical. There's plenty of space on the back of here to be able to put a full-size optical, especially if you change the full-size USB male A connection to another USB-C. So just have 2 USB-Cs over here on the right, and then you've got even more real estate to work with. Balanced output, fine, whatever. I know they're really into the Pentagon. On the front, again, balanced output, Pentagon, fine. 6.35, fine. 3.5 millimeter. And you know the reason why? Because I actually forgot my 6.35 to 3.5 millimeter adapter. Luckily for me, I had one frittered away. Again, if someone takes this on a trip and doesn't remember their 6.35 to 3.5 millimeter headphone adapter, they're not gonna be able to use it. And those aren't readily available. It's not like you can just run down to a gas station and get one of those. They should have done something different. They should have included a 3.5 millimeter adapter on the front. And you know what? They could say, hey, this is for purists or what have you. But I'm here to tell you, a lack of a feature is not a feature. And I've heard this before on multiple devices, not just Ifi, but Ifi is guilty of this, saying that this is a purist design, which really means we are not including features and we're going to call that a feature. And we're hoping that you're dumb enough to believe us. Again, lack of features, not a feature. Features sometimes lead to being beneficial for the customer. Not having features tends to be not beneficial to the customer. No features, no benefits. No features, not a feature. Okay, okay. So this comes with a very nice carrying case. And it's good because you're gonna have to include all of your adapters and dongles to make sure that you don't forget them. Again, if you're using a headphone that has 3.5 millimeter, you're gonna need a 6.35 adapter. You're going to need a mini optical adapter if you're hooking it up to an optical device. And you're going to need a special USB connector that has a female on one end and either a USB-C or a regular USB-A on the other. Point being is if you're forgetting any of those, you're probably not finding them at the local gas station. If they had 2 USB-Cs on the back and you forgot your special USB-A cable, you can run down to a gas station and get that. If it had a 3.5 millimeter on there, you wouldn't have to worry. You wouldn't need an adapter. And since this is a travel DAC amp, chances are you're going to be traveling with it. I've traveled a lot over the last 20 years with my jobs, and guess what? I almost always forget something. That could be me because I'm just dumb. I would argue that most people that travel a lot have a tendency to forget things. So if you pack your $1,000 travel DAC amp and you get to where you're going and you forgot your 6.35 to 3.5 millimeter adapter, I guess you're not listening to any music on it. If I'm spending $1,000, that's kind of unacceptable. Get one of these, your Studio M100 Mark II, it's 80 bucks. It has 3.5 millimeter and a 2.5 millimeter. Unbalanced and balanced. Very similar to the Ifi IDSD Diablo, except it's less than 1/10 of the price. You can get one of these for 10 bucks. Whoops, look at that, I caught it. And this is probably going to be available at your local Walmart. What is it? It's a Lightning to 3.5 millimeter connection. Now, is it the same amount of power? No, of course not. This is not the same amount of power. Of course not. This is way bigger. So this is going to be able to power much harder to drive headphones, which you're maybe going to be taking on a trip with you. That's another thing. Yes, this has gobs and gobs of power that can use to power the most difficult to drive headphones. But are you taking those on a trip with you? Maybe. Who am I to say? So you've got to bring your really hard to drive headphones with you. When you're traveling, you just need those huge, hard to drive, planar magnetic that take up a ton of space in your suitcase, that have their huge, ginormous travel case that goes along with them, that don't rotate or whatever. They have to put them in there. You have to grab those. You have to have them when you're on the road. And it doesn't make sense that you'd have any space left in your suitcase for maybe a DAC amp combo. That's like this big. Look at the SMSL, SH6, SU6. They're about this big. They're about the same size as this if you just changed around the geometry a little bit. No way you could bring a Skit, Modi, and Manny. No way. You're not going to have that much room in your suitcase. You're going to need this. But, hey, what if I want to listen to my giant, hard-to-drive headphones on the plane? Well, you're not listening to open backs on the plane, right? And really, how many hard-to-drive closed-back headphones are there? A few, probably less than 5 that you could be listening to on a plane. So the argument that, well, you could listen to this on a plane, whatever, fine. If you want to get this, get this. It's $1,000. It does sound good. Sounds fantastic. Really sounds remarkable. But once again, Ifi shows us that you can get remarkable sound, but sometimes it's going to be a huge headache because of the cables or getting it up and running. So let's talk about the IDSD Diablo. Sonically, it's brilliant. Very good. It's very neutral. Soundstage, vast, open, instrument separation. Things are definitively divided in space. Percussion is clean. No sense of sibilance. It's very well behaved. Sounds incredible. Sounds incredible. Sounds better than the IDSD S9 Pro. Probably, I don't know if I had to put a percentage on it. Maybe it sounds twice as good. $119. Okay? Sounds better in some regards not, than the Ear Studio M100 Mark II. This is also a battery-powered DAC amp. This also has a 10-band EQ in it, and also a whole bunch of other stuff. Also an LDAC Bluetooth receiver, but can also be a USB DAC. This doesn't have nearly the power. Sonically, though, the Ifi Diablo sounds probably 40% better. How about Lightning to 3.5 millimeter a dongle adapter thing? Okay, you plug this into your phone and then you put a 3.5 millimeter pair of earbuds, headphones on there. $10. The Ifi IDSD Diablo sounds maybe 3 times better than the $10. Yeah. The only thing you're not getting on here is you're not getting full resolution. So you get 2496, and you're not going to get a ton of power out of it. So if you have hard to drive headphones, that's probably not going to do it. But for IEMs, I challenge people, if you have a fancy dongle deck, go buy one of these and compare it. A/B compare the Apple Lightning to 3.5 millimeter connection versus one of your fancy dongle decks. Even $100 dongle deck, because my IDSD S9 Pro is not 10 times better than the Lightning of 3.5 millimeter. And I know people are going to say, well, it doesn't always work that way. I don't care. When I'm talking about $1,000 dongle DAC that doesn't come with the right connections for most people, no. Yeah, it sounds brilliant. Sounds awesome. But for me, if I had $1,000, I'm not buying this. Okay, maybe if I'd already had everything I wanted, already had all the headphones I wanted, I'd buy this. Like if I was way advanced and I knew that I just wanted the absolute utmost insurance with sound, maybe I'd get this. And I have super hard to drive headphones, and for whatever reason I'm traveling with those headphones, maybe I would consider the Ifi IDSD Diablo. But for most people, what I'd buy is the Monoprice Monolith THX DAC amp, I think it's $200 or $250, or the topping NX7. I think that's $200. Or Ifi's own hip DAC. I'd probably buy that before I'd buy this. Then what I'd buy is the Sennheiser 6XX, and then I'd buy the AKG K371s, maybe the SU6/SH6, or even Ifi's own new product, the Zen 1 Signature DAC. Basically, it's a new Zen DAC amp, but it has optical coax. Thank you, Ifi, for doing what other people have been asking you to do for a while. Or you get the SMSL SU6/SH6, which I just talked about, and they're not as good. They're not quite as good. So you can buy all that other stuff. You can get 2 pairs of headphones, a travel DAC amp, and a desktop DAC amp, and still have $250 left over to, I don't know, buy 18 months of Tidal or 2 years of Amazon Music. For the same price, you can get the Ifi IDSD Diablo. It's not a bad product. It sounds brilliant. I think it's ridiculously overpriced, and I think that it is an insult to consumers that it has the type of connections that it has on here. It is basically telling consumers, we don't care what is convenient. We are going to design stuff our way. The consumer needs to adapt to our design choices. We are not going to change our stuff for what's easier for the consumer, okay? Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I should just be able to take all these dongle decks and whatever, and even if I forget one at home, it's my fault. And it is my fault if I forget something. But I've traveled a lot. I would argue that I've probably traveled more than 95% of the population out there. I know what it's like to take hi-fi stuff on the road, and I forget things. I just think it's arrogant of Ifi to make a product like this and not include a 3.5 millimeter connection, and then supply one of their weird USB connectors. Even on their Zen DACs and stuff like that, they have that weird double USB connector. They sent me a product one time, it didn't include the cable, and I reached back out to them and their solution was go buy a cable. Thanks, Ifi. I think Ifi makes really good sounding products, but I'm starting to understand that anything outside of the Zen family that is not a DAC amp, probably not for me. I think they're a little proud of their upper tier stuff. A little too proud of their upper tier stuff. And the IDSD Diablo would fall smack dab in the middle of their upper tier stuff. Okay. So the Diablo, a lot better than a $10 dongle DAC. A little bit better than a $120 dongle DAC. A little bit better than an $80 Bluetooth USB DAC. A little bit better. Can drive the hardest to drive headphones that you're probably not going to be taking with you on a trip. But if you have it at home, that's fine, whatever. This really is not a travel DAC amp. This is a battery-powered desktop DAC amp that occasionally may be able to make a trip with you here or there. It's just not set up for travel. It really doesn't have the features for a true travel DAC amp. But it'll work in a pinch if you remember all the dongles and stuff like that. All right. Would I recommend it? No. Maybe if you got money to burn and you're not going to travel with it, you need it. It's good. It sounds good. It sounds better than anything else I have. But at $1,000, it's just not a value at all. Even at $500, maybe at $400, maybe $400. I think one is getting $400 with the fidelity out of this and $10 of convenience out of it. Okay, so if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudio, and every Sunday night we have patron-only Zooms. We also have a patron-only Facebook group. You can also sign up for Amazon Music. There's a link in the description. Click on the link, sign up. You get 3 or 4 months for free. Maybe you get 6 months of Disney Plus for free. I get a couple of dollars, even if you cancel. You can also use the affiliate links in the description. I will link the Ifi IDSD Diablo. And if you are interested in pure audio fidelity, don't care about a little bit of inconvenience, and you have $1,000 to burn, the Diablo may be the product for you. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, probably not through the Ifi IDSD Diablo. Get one of the other ones and buy like 4 different pairs of headphones and enjoy yourself. And then buy a permanent desktop DAC amp stack that doesn't take up any room in your suitcase, any more room in your suitcase than the Diablo was. And then you can fill your soul with happiness and have a whole bunch of money left over to buy more headphones or music services. Take your family out for dinner, Christmas presents. Anyway, and with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.